These teenagers are trying to escape a facility that plans to chop them up and sell them as meat. In the future, the illegal immigrant population has grown so large that it becomes a major topic of debate in the news. Some argue that they're taking jobs from citizens by offering cheap labor, contributing to crime, and using drugs illegally. However, others point out that immigrants bring delicious food, vibrant culture, and lively music to the country. But suddenly, the government orders the mass arrest of illegal immigrants and their children, changing their lives once and for all. A teenager named JP works at a burger joint called Lady Liberty. Today, he's covering a shift at the drive-thru for a colleague. Two spoiled rich kids show up and hurl racial slurs at him. But instead of getting mad, JP puts them on loudspeaker, embarrassing them in front of all the customers. The kids speed off in shame. Next, his sister Lily and her friend Andrea, who is also JP's crush, pull up to the window. JP tries to impress Andrea by offering her a milkshake, but then he gets called away to unclog the bathroom, and all the girls laugh at him. Andrea then tells JP that Lily got accepted to a college in New York and will have to leave soon. JP feels a wave of sadness hit him as he doesn't want his sister to go. Later, JP heads home right after his shift, not wanting to be late for Lily's celebration. At home, Lily visits his room and tells him he can go to college too, but JP shrugs it off. He says he's more of a hustler, not the college type. He adds that he'll make enough money to take care of their mom before Lily even graduates. After a bit more chatting, JP notices a butterfly tattoo behind Lily's ear. She makes him promise not to tell their mom. A few hours later, the party kicks off, and Amelia gives a heartfelt speech. Lily reassures her mom, saying that JP will take care of things at home. But suddenly, bright lights flood the house, and Immigration Customs Enforcement, ICE agents storm in. They violently separate everyone. JP and Lily try to hold hands while they're pinned to the floor, but the officers force them to put their hands behind their backs and haul them away. But why did this happen? Hours earlier, the governor, Finn, declared a state of emergency and issued a surprise executive order. He sent a task force to arrest illegal immigrants and even their US-born children, accusing the children of aiding and abetting by not reporting their parents. Some say Finn did this to rally his base ahead of the upcoming election. He announced a zero-tolerance policy to the press. Next, the arrested children of immigrants are split into two lines, boys and girls, spending their days in crowded prison cells. JP sits in the corner of his cell, sleepless and in disbelief. He watches as around 20 inmates, including his sister, are loaded onto a bus. He calls out to Lily, but she just turns away and boards the bus. Weeks later, JP is called into a lawyer's office. The lawyer, Lisa, has been on TV fighting for their rights and trying to overturn the ruling. She tells JP they've lost the case, but they're not giving up and plan to take it to the Supreme Court. JP asks why Finn went after the children too, since they're legal citizens. Lisa explains that Finn targeted them because children of immigrants don't typically vote Republican, and he wants them locked up before the election. She also reveals that Finn plans to deport all illegal immigrants, including JP's mom. But there's a way out. If a legal US citizen claims Amelia as family, she can stay. The problem is, JP or Lily needs to be out of prison to do that. Next, Lisa tells JP there's a legal way out of prison. The Elderly American Tolerance Understanding Project is a community service program where volunteers care for senior citizens. The DA is offering to drop all charges if they complete the program. With no other option, JP agrees, hoping to save his mom from deportation and get their lives back to normal. JP signs up along with others, including Camellia, Big Mac, Chris, and Micah. Camellia is a half-Mexican, half-Native American activist. Big Mac is a funny guy who isn't sure why he was arrested, whether for being Black, Latin, or both. Chris suffers from chronic anxiety, delusional paranoia, and other mental issues. Micah is a vegan and a democratic socialist, unsure if that's a crime now. Despite their differences, they're all here for the same reason, aiding their immigrant parents. Next, their trainer, Bruce, who's also head of security, explains that the ankle monitors they're wearing will beep if they leave their rooms outside of allowed times. If they don't return within 5 minutes, there will be consequences. After training, they are taken to a luxurious institute and meet Eddie, the founder. Eddie tells them to take the opportunity to learn from the elderly while helping them with daily chores. He introduces Cynthia and James, the operational officers, who show them around and explain that their most important job is to entertain the guests and keep them calm. During the tour, Big Mac notices an elderly person sharpening a toothbrush but stays quiet. Later, they're served meatloaf, which Big Mac finds disgusting. He asks Micah to complain to Eddie, thinking she looks the most white of the group. Chris refuses to eat or drink, claiming only his mom's food is safe and that these people are trying to poison him. Frustrated, Camellia storms off because the guys are treating this like summer camp. Next, James brings their uniforms and they begin working. Most are unsure how to interact with the elderly. Micah suggests JP read to an elderly woman named Greta in the common room. As JP reads, Greta struggles to speak, then suddenly tells him, "You're going to die here." Shocked, JP watches as Cynthia rushes over and injects Greta with a drug that puts her to sleep. JP is left confused and unsure how to react. At dinner, the group tries to convince Chris to at least drink some water, but he refuses, pointing to a black mirror and insisting, "They're watching us." Camellia asks who they are, but Chris says he's still trying to figure that out. Micah jokingly suggests he escaped to find out. Taking the suggestion seriously, Chris heads for the door, but it's locked. Immediately, Bruce and another guard arrive, stun Chris with a taser, and drag him away. That night, JP can't sleep and goes for a walk. He spots an owl similar to the facility's logo, but when he looks away for a second, the owl vanishes. JP heads to the bathroom, but his ankle monitor starts beeping, warning him he has only 5 minutes to return. As he hurries back, a shadowy figure slips into his room. When JP returns, he's shocked to find an elderly woman in his room, mumbling the words, "Virgil, and Virgil will set you free," over and over. She approaches JP, who stumbles back, falling to the floor. The woman climbs on top of him, still repeating the same words. Just then, Cynthia, James, and another staff member rush in, inject her with the same drug, and take her away. Next, Eddie gathers the recruits and explains that many of the elderly patients have advanced dementia and Alzheimer's. But Big Mac can't stop thinking about what happened to Chris. Later, James shows JP a patient who constantly tries to bite everyone. When James calls JP a racial slur, JP snaps back. Eddie steps in to calm things down. A while later, while helping some elderly patients into bed, one of them bites JP, causing him to faint at the sight of his own blood. Later, JP wakes up in the care room and sees Lily, who tells him she's been close by the whole time. She reminds him to take care of things like he promised, but suddenly, the room turns dark, and JP wakes up. It was all a dream. Micah is nearby and asks how he's feeling. She says she'd rather spend time with him than with the rest of the group. At lunch, Big Mac complains about the awful food and jokes that he'd do anything for a hamburger. Camellia then asks Cynthia where Chris is, and Cynthia tells them he was sent to a detention center for bad behavior, warning that the same will happen to anyone who tries to escape. But Big Mac insists she's lying, showing them Chris's inhaler, which Chris would never leave behind. That night, Big Mac takes Greta to Philip's room to watch a movie. While setting up the TV, Philip's hand suddenly twists and cracks, scaring Greta. Philip stops breathing for a moment before his body starts shaking, his bones contorting unnaturally. He falls to the floor and flips upside down, moving eerily toward Big Mac like the girl from the movie The Ring. Terrified, Big Mac runs out, leaving Greta alone with Philip. The next morning, Philip is found dead. Eddie tells the recruits he's unsure what happened, but Big Mac recounts the disturbing events to JP, saying it's the scariest thing he's ever seen. Later, Eddie takes JP and James to the garden, showing them the owl JP had seen before. He tells them the owl's name is Virgil, the protector of the facility, both on the outside and in the inside. Eddie encourages them to work together and put aside their differences for the program's common goal. They hug, but when Eddie isn't looking, James calls JP racial slurs. JP insists on hugging longer, using the opportunity to swipe the keys to the ankle monitors. That night, JP unlocks his monitor and sneaks to Big Mac's room, where he finds Big Mac wearing scrubs and various cosmetic products. Big Mac makes JP promise not to tell anyone, as he's always claimed to be a thug. JP then gathers Camellia and Micah, and the group heads to the pool to relax. After a while, JP and Micah kiss and spend the night together. The next morning, JP wakes up next to one of the elderly women and is shocked. Micah walks in, laughing, and helps the elderly woman out of the room, teasing JP about what happened. Later, while JP and Big Mac are talking in the garden, JP notices Greta holding a cootie catcher, similar to the ones his sister used to make. JP approaches her and asks where she got it. Greta offers him the cootie catcher and grabs his hand as if to say something important, but Cynthia and James arrive, inject her with the usual drug, and take her away. Next, JP and the group gather to talk, and Camilla and Big Mac admit they don't remember much after the pool party, almost as if they blacked out. Camilla shows them a mark on her neck, resembling the injection marks the elderly get from Cynthia. The group starts to realize something strange is going on. Later, JP examines the cootie catcher Greta gave him and finds a hidden message inside. Help! At night, JP sneaks into Greta's room, but he has to hide under the bed when Cynthia and James enter. He overhears Cynthia saying Greta is getting too freaked out and they need to increase her dosage. She also mentions that Greta won't be around much longer. After they leave, JP checks Greta's neck to confirm the injection mark, but what he finds shocks him. There on Greta's neck is the same butterfly tattoo that Lily had. JP realizes Greta is actually his older sister, Lily. Everything clicks, why she's been trying to warn him and how she knew to make the cootie catcher. Then JP tries to run, but James catches him and injects him with the same drug, knocking him out. The next morning, Big Mac is shocked when they're served hamburgers for breakfast, but he and the others grow suspicious of JP's sudden disappearance. Knowing the truth about Chris, they decide to investigate. While Camilla keeps watch, Big Mac and Micah sneak into James's office after he leaves. They search the room and find a blueprint for a large machine and discover that Chris is being held in solitary confinement. Just then, Camilla warns them that James is coming back. Big Mac and Micah manage to hide and slip out after he leaves again. Meanwhile, JP wakes up in a basement, strapped to a chair. To his horror, half of his body, his face, hair, and torso, has aged dramatically. He sees two others who also have half-aged bodies, realizing something terrible is happening. Next, Big Mac is assigned to clean the rooftop. While he's on a ladder, the elderly man who was sharpening a toothbrush suddenly stands from his wheelchair and tries to stab Cynthia. But Bruce intervenes, pushing the man into the ladder, causing Big Mac to fall. Cynthia checks Big Mac's pulse and alerts James. At the same time, Eddie meets with Governor Finn, revealing their crazy plan. Eddie's elderly care facility is secretly a slaughterhouse, supplying cheap meat to the market that tastes just like the real thing. Back at the facility, JP manages to free himself from the chair and crawls toward the door, but it's locked with a password. After several failed attempts, JP remembers Eddie saying that the owl, Virgil, protects the facility. He tries Virgil and the door unlocks. JP escapes, but James notices and sounds the alarm. Cynthia and Bruce rush to find him, giving Big Mac, who was pretending to be unconscious, time to escape as well. Meanwhile, Eddie and Finn continue discussing how their operation thrives. Finn keeps supplying the facility with more immigrant children, while the facility drugs them to suppress their hormones and tenderize their bodies. The meat is processed by the machine under the facility and sold commercially. Worst of all, this horrific practice is happening in 12 other branches too. Next, JP runs into Micah and tries to explain what he's discovered. But before he can get far, James arrives, and JP steps back toward Micah. In a shocking turn of events, Micah injects JP with the drug, revealing she's been part of the operation all along. Later that night, JP wakes up strapped to a chair, face to face with Eddie. Micah is there too, and Eddie praises her for being the perfect spy. Micah coldly tells JP that nothing between them was real. Eddie goes further, revealing that even the lawyer who convinced JP to sign up for the program was in on the scheme. He adds that soon the machine will be fully autonomous and they won't need any labor at all. Next, Big Mac sneaks Camilla a key from the rooftop to unlock her ankle monitor. She runs, unsure where to go, and ends up in the cafeteria. There, she smashes the black mirror where Chris had insisted they were being watched from, and behind it, she discovers a hidden room with a chair, proving Chris was right. But before she can escape, James surprises her and locks her in a room similar to where JP was held. Later, Micah reveals the horrifying truth. The drugs used to tenderize the meat-weakened bones and warp the mind, which is why they're all aging so fast. The facility being a nursing home helps mask the operation, keeping any suspicions at bay. Micah also tells JP that Lily is still alive, but not for long. The following night, JP meets Camellia, whose body has already half-aged, and they plan to escape after dinner. When the time comes, JP finds Lily and helps her remember who she is. Just then, James, Cynthia, and Micah arrive to inject everyone with the drug, but the elderly residents rally together and fight back. JP flees the room, with Bruce chasing after him. JP hides, then ambushes Bruce, but Bruce is too strong and overpowers him easily. Suddenly, Big Mac crashes in through the ceiling and attacks Bruce, strangling him while JP grabs Bruce's legs. Together, they knock him out, and Big Mac helps JP back to his feet. Meanwhile, another guard tries to enter the room as the elderly and caregivers clash in a chaotic fight. JP moves carefully, covering himself as he walks out of the room. Amid the chaos, JP, Camellia, and Lily manage to slip into an elevator, escaping the brawl. The elevator stops before reaching the surface, likely shut down from a control room. JP decides to find another way out while Big Mac and the elders overpower the caregivers and free themselves. JP stumbles upon a room where Chris is locked in a cage, behaving just like Phillips, moving wildly and erratically. Suddenly, Eddie appears, attacking JP and tossing him into the chopping machine. Before JP is sliced, Camellia arrives and smashes Eddie's head with a stick, saving him. But Eddie recovers, throws Camellia over a table, and moves to finish JP. Meanwhile, Lily, seeing Chris acting like Phillips, realizes what she must do. She frees Chris, who charges at Eddie. Chris rips Eddie's jaw apart, killing him. Eddie's body falls into the meat grinder, turning him into a burger patty. At last, the nightmare is over. As the survivors gather, they watch the sunrise after a long, harrowing night. What started as a simple detention left them aged beyond their years, and some lost their lives. News of the event spreads nationwide, and Governor Finn flees the country, knowing the consequences if he's caught. Lisa, the lawyer who lured them into the program, is arrested, and the executive order that started all of this is reversed. No one will be detained or deported anymore. Scientists begin researching how to reverse the aging process Eddie inflicted on the teenagers. But while they may restore their youth, the scars left on their minds and bodies may never fully heal. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like our channel and subscribe if you enjoy content like this. Also, let us know what movie you would love us to recap for you.